This episode is brought to you by FX's The Veil, starring Elizabeth Moss. FX's The Veil is an international spy thriller that follows two women as they play a deadly game of truth and lies on the road from Istanbul to Paris and London. One woman has a secret, and the other has a mission to reveal it before thousands of lives are lost. FX's The Veil premieres April 30th, only on Hulu.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Wrap Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wrap Podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as always is Carwyn and Jamie. Carwyn, nice to have you back. How are you, lovely boy?
Yeah, good to be back, thank you. It's been a few weeks now, just refreshing, getting ready for the World Cup.
Yeah, I would say we missed you, but I'd be lying. Jamie, how's it Jamie, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Looking forward to tonight's show. I think it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
It certainly is. It certainly is, because our guest for this evening, so Reese can't be with us tonight, but he'll hopefully be back in a couple of weeks' time. But our guest this evening is Hugh. Hugh, you were on before, weren't you? What one did you do before?
I did the Osprey season review.
That was the one, yeah. The one when
Scarlett doing an Osprey season review.
Yeah. That was the one when Carwyn shit out and went, I can't stand it. I can't sit there and do this.
I thought I'd let the expert, on lower league teams do the review for us.
Yeah. Well, Hugh was that good that we invited him back because everyone loves a stat and Hugh is king of stats. So have you got a few stats lined up for us tonight, Hugh?
I got a few stats lined up for you tonight. Indeed, this is a topic that I am quite passionate about. So I'll try and keep it fact-based rather than opinion-based. But an opinion might sneak in there every now and again.
Oh, yeah, bollocks to that. Never let a good fact get in the way of an opinion.
There's plenty of good opinions on this show.
Right. So before we get into some of the guts of it, let's do a little bit of admin. So drink of the week. So Carwyn, you've had a couple of weeks to find something half decent, something cultured, a little bit out there, a little bit spacey. What have you got, mate?
I've got Heineken 0% beer. Pure malt lager. All right, and do you know what? It's lovely. It's refreshing. I can go for a drive after if I want to, or I can hit the harder stuff if I want to. It's a school night, so I've got to keep myself tidy.
That's a topical choice. That's a topical choice, Carwyn.
Yeah, it is.
Heineken, because they've pulled out of sponsoring, being a main sponsor of the Champions Cup.
Mm.
They have. I wonder who's going to replace them.
No idea. Whoever they can get.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jane, what have you got, mate?
So I've got a Spanish IPA today.
Oh,
because I had Spanish beer box set for Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. It's from Barcelona. And I know I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. So just Please bear with me. I mean, I'm struggling with English and I learn Spanish, but I think you pronounce it cerdos voladores, which is flying pigs in English. And it's really, really nice. It's a really nice drink. Yeah.
Flying pigs. Right.
4.5%.
Okay, mate.
Cerdos voladores.
Hugh, what have you got, mate?
I haven't got something quite that exotic. I've got something exotic for me, which is I had a weekend away in Devon a couple of weeks ago, and I got the local beer down there is called Exmoor, so I got some Exmoor Gold, which I tried in a pub. And you know when you try a beer in a pub and you think, I don't much like this beer, I'll only have the rest of this pint and then maybe another pint afterwards, and then that's it. That's what I did with this. So that's what this is. 5% though, so a bit strong for me.
Well, I'm sticking to my that little section of Tesco's that I found, and I've got another cider, and this one is a cherry bakewell cider.
I've had that. It's nice. I mean, I've had that one. It's sweet, though, isn't it?
It says Brothers. I thought it said brothel cider.
Yeah. But it tastes like that medicine your mum used to give you when you were small. You know, when they had to put so much sugar in it and all you can taste is the sugar. So it's a bit of a theme running through these. But I got to show you this because I had this for Christmas and I forgot that this is my bottle opener. Is it so it looks like a little spade and it's got a bit of oomph to it. And then that's my little bottle opener there, see? Because I made the mistake of leaving my bottle opener in my boys' room, and then my boys come home from university and it's already a shit tip and I can't find the bottle opener.
Looks like a spade.
It is.
A spade. Is that so you can dig yourself out all the crap you spout about Ospreys rugby, yeah?
I'm not even going to dignify that, mate, because I can't think of a witty response fast enough. That's why.
Exactly.
He's always digging a hole on this podcast, isn't he, Carwyn?
Exactly.
Right. Let's have a. So we said last week about Jamie's news desk, and we were going to get a little introduction theme. So we are. I mean, we've had quite a few in. I'll be honest, Jamie. I quite like the early S4C No Othion.
Yes.
I thought that was quite cool. But I'm waiting for somebody to put the 18 one in. You know,
I tell you what one I did like. Someone suggested Benny Hill, and I think that's quite appropriate because Welsh Rugby is an absolutely comedy show at the moment. So I think the Benny Hill one would actually be perfect.
But we're going to wait until Reese comes back, and then when Reese is back, Reese is a bit of a drummer, so he's going to do a rip off a couple of them, so we don't get stung by copyright. Even better. Can't fault that, mate. Yeah. So what's on Jamie's news desk this week, mate?
Well, let's start with the big news from today then. So the Scarlets have announced another signing. They've been very active in the recruitment market. So they've announced the signing of Scottish international lock Alex Craig today. Craig has played 49 times for Gloucester since coming in from Hartbury, and he has 2 caps for Scotland, both of them as a replacement against Italy and France back in 2021. Unfortunately, injury has blighted his career, especially the past 2 years. So he's only made 10 appearances in the last 2 years. So clearly there is, a risk Scarlets are taking. They take a punt on this guy. But I think this could be a very shrewd pickup if he stays fit. Scarlets have lost a lot of big name players in their pack, and they do need to strengthen the pack. And I think that Alex Craig could be a really good addition, like I said, provided he stays fit. So I think it's a pretty decent pickup. I mean, you and Hugh are the Turks on this pod. What do you both think?
I think it'll fit right in at the Scarlets because, as you say, in 21-22 season, he was injured for half the season. And then he came back for 5 games, and then he got banned for a high hit. So I think that's Scarlets all over.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a team actually signing players from somewhere else. I've seen a lot of re-signings with the Ospreys. Cardiff can't sign a coach. Dragons have mentioned Lee Halfpenny, but there's been nothing else.
We've signed 3 players. We've signed 3.
What, re-signings or?
No, new players. We signed Dane Blacker. We signed Corey Baldwin.
Of course, yes, you did, yes. Sorry, apologies.
It's you lot there and signing. Well, you're re-signing. You haven't announced any.
Yeah, there's been no new signings.
And Cardiff haven't got a pot to piss in at the moment, so they ain't signing no one.
I know that. I'm just looking at the Wales Online, and they've put out what each team, like who they can expect to field next season. And you look at Cardiff, and go, geez, they've got Matthew Morgan as fly half.
I worked it out the other day, and I don't think Cardiff have got an inside centre on the books currently.
Wow, that's
I think it's probably have just to be from the academy or something.
Yeah, they've got Ben Thomas down at the moment, but he's a utility back, isn't he?
Yeah, I've got him down as fly half. That's the only fly half on the books.
But Priestland has said he's going, but he's not officially announced where or whether he's retiring. So he might turn into another, Dan Fish that retires like about 6 times and just keeps coming back every time.
Well, he was supposed to be
him.
stepping away, wasn't he, from rugby? He did say that he was going to step away from rugby. So maybe I don't know, but
it'll be interesting to see what happens there. When it obviously see what happens with the coaching debacle first. But
that's the thing; they can't do anything or sign any players until they get this issue resolved with Dai Young, and it's taking us time. But it's complicated, isn't it? There's probably legal teams involved. We don't know the nature of the allegations, so Cardiff are in the shit, really, aren't they? So until they get this sorted with, the coaching team, and a few coaches have gone as well. Dwayne Goodfield has gone. What's his name has gone to Zebra. Hodges. Yeah. So
Richie Reese is going. I think Richie Reese is off to Japan, and
he's been linked to Japan. Yeah,
meant to be.
TR Thomas,
Gloucester.
Gone to Gloucester.
Yeah.
Which brings us back round full circle to the guy that the Scarlets just signed. And what I was gonna, what I was gonna say is it's from a personal note, nice to see Scarlett signing someone from Hartpury with a Hartpury background, because that's gonna fucking rankle me that now. But we were talking on a pod that we haven't released yet about how the Bucks League is being used more and more as a development tool for URC and Gallagher Premiership sides, and he's another one that came through that route. He's come through Bucks League, he's come into Gloucester via Hartpury University, where a lot of them end up. So I think we're going to see more and more players like that, and they come through the Bucks League with a side for a couple of years and then they move on. So I think that's the way the future's looking myself. But
it is interesting though, isn't it, that this is the third non-Welsh qualified lock now the Scarlets have, because obviously you got Fifita and Blousey, although I have a feeling, I don't know, maybe you agree or not, I have a feeling that Fifita's going to be playing in the back row next season rather than lock. I think it'd be utilised there. But this would have had to been given approval by the WRU because, it's not a Welsh player, not Welsh qualified.
Not qualified.
So we talked about this on the pod that's coming out, about the potential can of worms of some players getting the green light and others are not. So I thought that was quite interesting.
I think that's going to sit well, is it?
Well, he's a young player.
Yeah.
And Scarlett's been trying to sign a second row, back row for God knows how long. So it's not like we haven't tried. But
has he got any Welsh heritage?
Not as far as I know.
For Scotland. He's already played for Scotland.
But he played for Scotland so many years ago. It was that new rule, isn't it? Where obviously if you play like over 3 or 5 years, you can play for your country.
But he's not got any Welsh heritage. But he could qualify. No, he could qualify on residence grounds in a few years' time. But I'll tell you something interesting that I heard a little rumor, and it is genuine rumor, nothing more than that at the minute. So Callum Afoni's transfer is subject to him being fit, and at the minute he's still receiving treatment at Parker Scarlets. So Scarlets have started pre-season, and so this was last week I heard this rumor. So I don't know, I haven't heard any different from then, but there's something in his transfer that says if he's not fit, then he's not coming, and he hasn't left the Scarlets yet, which will be an interesting one to see if that turns out, because that just throws the whole salary cap up in the air, because straight away they're over, because I'm assuming they're going to recruit up to the salary cap. But
that is a rumor, Lee, isn't it? Let's emphasize.
It's an absolute. It's a rumor. It's a rumor I've heard from 2 different sources in 2 different places. But that's where it is at the minute. But there's obviously nothing from the club, and there's obviously nothing from anybody else. But that's the rumor I'm hearing, which will be quite interesting if that comes up. So, so what else have we got, Jim?
Well, let's stay on rugby transfers or potential rugby transfers then. Liam Williams, he's set to leave cash-strapped Cardiff and make his way to Japan after the World Cup. Wales Online reported on the weekend that he's going to move to Japan, provided he passes and I quote, strict medical. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, he needs a strict medical. And once he gets the all clear, he'll be free to go to Japan after the World Cup. I mean, on the one hand, I don't think Cardiff fans would be too disappointed. It's funny, isn't it, how things change in Welsh rugby? I remember when Cardiff signed Liam Williams, Cardiff fans were cock-a-hoop. They were delighted. He was brilliant signing, all the rest of it. Yeah, excellent. Liam's coming to Cardiff Arms Park. Now it's like, yeah, we're glad he's going because he's done fuck all and he's costing too much money. So, yeah, I don't think that's a move that's worked out. I was very skeptical about that move anyway, to be honest, because let's be honest, in my personal opinion, I don't think he's done an awful lot since returning from Saracens. I think he's lost form. I don't think he's the player he was. But, a new environment, a fresh start might be good for him. And he'll certainly help Cardiff because he'll get him off the books.
How many times did he play for Scarlets, Hugh?
It felt like 4 or 5 times. I know for a fact he played more for Wales than he played for the Scarlets during his second stint. And I'm pretty sure it will be more caps for Wales than appearances really the Scarlets or Cardiff put together. I think it was only 4 appearances this last season for Cardiff. It felt like 2. I don't know, without making the whole conversation about it, if I'd have been the Scarlets, as much as I love Liam, I think he's world class, I wouldn't have had him back because we at the time had Lee Halfpenny and Johnny McNichol as fullbacks, and they were both in the Welsh squad. So the first, second, and third Welsh fullback all played for the Scarlets, which was crazy.
Can I just say something on the Liam Williams thing? It doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah. Yes, of course you can, Carwyn. You can say whatever you like, mate. Yeah, go on.
I will. And it fits into the Gareth Anscombe bracket as well. They've had hardly any games. They've been paid a huge salary. I think Liam Williams played 4 games with Cardiff this season. I'm not sure what Gareth has played for the Ospreys. And they're not repaying the faith put back into them. They're going off for a big.
They don't have to, mate. It's pro sport. They don't have to.
It might be pro sport, but I tell you what, it shows the makings of a man or woman. Have a bit of integrity. You've been paid. You've played a couple of games. You've had a massive salary, and what have you done to show for it? Nothing.
Just to say, though, he was asking about the appearances there. I've just seen a tweet from Peter Jackson because I knew he mentioned something about the appearances. So he said that since he returned to Wales from Saracens, he made 9 appearances for the Scarlets and just 4 for Cardiff. That's what you've got in brackets. You got 9 appearances and 4 for Cardiff.
There we go.
Blimey.
Started 13 games. 9 for Scarlets and 4 for Cardiff.
Well, it was his first game for Cardiff. He got injured against Munster. That was it. But I just doesn't sit well with me. I think, if a club has brought you on and paying you big bucks, they're looking after you in the medical room, and you go, do you know what? I'm off. It's just, no.
But until you're in that position yourself, you don't know, do you?
Yeah, there's the other side of the coin. Don't get me wrong. There is the other side of the coin. You want the money. You want all this. It's for the family. You want to do well. I think they've probably earned quite a few bucks over the years that they're doing it right anyway. But hey,
you can get him more in Japan, and it's a less physical league, so it'd be less demanding for him. And I don't blame the players at all, especially with the cutbacks and the uncertainty in Welsh rugby. You got to go with the money, is so be it. I don't have an issue with it. It's understandable, but I get what Carwyn's saying. But it's pro sport at the end of the day. You go with the money, is don't know.
Yeah. So what else have we got, James?
Okay, so one for Carwyn there. See what he thinks of this. The Ospreys, they've announced a multi-year partnership with Macron, everyone's favourite kit manufacturer in Wales. So, of course, manufacture the Welsh national team, as we know, and also Cardiff. Scarlets are, of course, with Castore, and Dragons are with VX3. So, what do you think of that then, Carwyn?
I want to hold back until I see what the design's like, because we've had some crap designs down the years, to be honest. I mean, season before last was fairly decent, but there's not that many. They're better the better jerseys were back in the early days of the Ospreys, and like the days when they started putting too many sponsors on the shirt. It didn't look like a rugby
I know
shirt.
what you mean.
You know?
Yeah,
it was so.
You just look like a walking billboard, and I'm afraid the Dragons are very guilty of this.
Yeah.
On the one hand, sponsorship is good, but it's it's just too many.
You know, how much are they putting into the region? Where does all that money go? Well, I don't know. We'll wait and see. I'll keep my opinion to myself until the shirt comes out for the season.
And let's not forget, Scarlet's binned off Macron. They were that unhappy with him. They binned him off, didn't they, Lee? They were complaints from supporters about the quality and the pricing.
And sizing was a weird one.
Awful. The price is always
sizing,
yeah. Sizing would seem to be a common theme where you had to add like 2 sizes for the match day one, but if you had the supporters one, you only had to add 1 size, and you were
is Macron a US company then?
No, they're Italian, didn't they, Macron?
They're Italian, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think Macron.
Yeah.
So in the Wales shop in Cardiff, I think they're sponsored by Macron still, aren't they? I'm not sure. Well, apparently the kit is lovely. It is really nice. So if they can go along those lines, who knows?
Yeah, be interesting we wait to see, won't we?
Yeah.
I think I got to say, Umbro was shit, mind, weren't they? For Ospreys. No, because Umbro are pretty, well respected sportsmen, especially in the world of football. They've made some really nice kits over the years, Umbro. But for Ospreys, it was pretty cack, wasn't it? I thought
Umbro do England now, don't they? Or is that Under Armour?
Oh, too soon,
England.
No,
yeah.
England, I think they do, yeah. But there's only so much you can do with a shirt. Do you know what I mean? And once we've been around a couple of different variations, you do start to kind of get a bit desperate. Like the European
name, number, club logo, and the sponsorship name. Good, done. Happy days.
Yeah.
I do think the regions are all missing a bit of a trick with not just matchday shirts, but merch generally. Merch makes you money. People buy it, and to be fair, you can charge silly money for it if you go on like Rugby Store or Lovell or anything. You can spend 70 quid on a jersey, and people.
Well, that's why we're doing so well on this podcast, because the amount of merchandise Lee's got selling in his backyard there from the shed. We are flying, mate.
Yeah, I'll get round to sorting it one day, mate. I will. I promise.
If you look at like I was browsing like Super Rugby teams, and you look at like Moana Pacifica's merch, it's amazing. Or if you go on top 14 sites and you look at someone like Stade Francais merch, it's mental, but it's good. It's all bright pink and got Capri Sun.
All bright colours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stade Francais beautiful. I love it. It's mad as fuck. I love that shit.
Yeah, I love it. So it's all like really nice stuff. Whereas you go on like the regions websites and you got like you can have a grey hoodie with Scarlet stenciled on it. You can have a grey hoodie with Cardiff stenciled on it, or you can have, It's not like I say, these things make you money. If I was in a position to make a decision, the first thing I'd do day one was like, guys, we need to step it up on the merch for the regions.
Yeah.
Well, my boy's got what's the Samoa one? The club you just said.
Moana Pacifica.
That's the one. Yeah. So he's got a vest, baseball cap, and shirt from them that he went and bought himself. And then while he was in South Africa, he went and bought himself a Sharks coat, baseball cap, vest, shorts.
I like the Sharks top.
But I'm like, he can buy more from a side that he's got to travel 12 and a half hours to than he can from the fucking Scarlet store just up the other end of the M. Just ridiculous. But
I think Scarlet's accessories, you can have a scarf, a mug, a key ring, and that's it.
But you can't buy them in the shop. You can only buy them online. They're not available in the shop.
That's what annoys me, because VX3 have a weird relationship with the Dragons, so you can't buy their merchandise anywhere except through like the Ronnie Parade shop online and through VX3 themselves. You can't get it in like Shop Rugby or Planet Rugby or anything. I remember going to Cambran not long ago. Look at that. They had Ospreys, they had Cardiff. It's like, where's all the Dragon stuff? He said, yeah, we haven't got a license for it. VX3 will let us sell it. I'm like, fucking hell, this is Gwent in Cambran. You're not selling any Dragons merch. He said, we can't. That's the contract. This is silly, isn't it?
It's insane. Yeah, it's dumb. Anything else on the news desk, James? Or are we done with news?
We are done for the news.
We are done with it. So we're going to need like a closing thing as well. Do-do, do-do, do-do-do, boo. Like at the end of
countdown.
the news. Yeah, a countdown at the end of the news. But
right, okay.
So we're going to have to work on that one as well now as well.
Yes.
Right. So the point of tonight's pod, and this is what I'm looking forward to this. I genuinely am. Is URC versus Gallagher Premiership. Who's the best? So this one just goes round and round.
This is going to be fun, isn't it? I can't wait to see how this is going to go down on Welsh Rugby Twitter when Hugh tries to say URC equals best league. That's really going to go down well.
And then
the Irish will like it. The Irish will be big fans of me.
Oh, they will. And the South Africans now. Yeah, it's true.
But then you've got a whole load of people in England going, Gallagher Premiership is the best thing since sliced bread and blah, 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 blah. And then there's a couple of New Zealanders start wading into the conversation and go, you boys are talking shit because, So, yeah, where do you want to start on this one, Hugh? Give us an idea.
I think where we were going there is quite a good place to start. Is the perception. So especially in Wales, keep it to talk about Wales because for me it feels like amongst Welsh rugby fans, the Gallagher Premiership is almost seen as like a promised land. With all the talk lately about an Anglo-Welsh league and things, it feels like we still put it on a pedestal. Do you guys think that's fair? Or that most Welsh rugby fans see it as above the URC?
Yes, because that's the league they want to join. It's the league they want to join because they want to travel to away games. If you're a Cardiff fan, you want to be able to go across the bridge and go and see them against Bristol, Gloucester, Bath, and this rivalry's there. This genuine, the Anglo-Welsh rivalry is traditional. You don't have to catch a plane to go to South Africa or Ireland. So I can completely understand why Welsh fans like the Gallagher Premiership, and it is a good product, and I can understand why they want to be part of
full
it.
stadiums
What I will
week.
say. Yeah, but what I will say is, I think it is, as we'll talk about soon, I suppose, but it is massively hyped up.
Yeah,
this league. It is a good league. I don't think it's the land of milk and honey, as I said before, and I don't think it's this brilliant, wonderful league that some people portray it to be. But it is a good product. Yes.
And I don't think you would get full stadiums every week, Car. I think it's bollocks. Yeah.
I'm saying they have full stadiums across the water.
They don't really. Well, they have good attendances, but I wouldn't say it's full weekend week out.
I can tell you about this actually.
See, this is why I like you. Go on, Hugh. Go on, get some stats out, son.
So the English Premiership, most sides do get slightly better attendances than the URC. So we can talk about the URC. We can talk about the Welsh teams. So the average attendance in the Premiership, the season just gone, was 11,800. Now, one of the reasons that I think it looks a lot better on telly is because the English Premiership's sides, with the exception of a couple, play in bespoke stadiums that are their own stadiums and they fill that capacity. So like Leicester Tigers play in, obviously, their Welford Road, isn't it? And they fill it quite a lot. And you get teams like Harlequins and Bath are upwards of 90% of their stadiums get filled every week. Whereas the URC teams, you've got the Ospreys playing in Swansea.com, which is probably a bit too big of a stadium for that team. There's been talk about going back to St Helens? That was
St Helens, yeah.
Yeah. So that might be a good thing for them as well. You got, the Lions. Yeah, you ever watch the Lions from South Africa play? Yeah. You're thinking, did they advertise this match? They've got this like huge stadium with feels like it's 100,000 seater with about 20,000 people in it. Well, the Lions' average attendance is quite poor. It's 5,500. So it just looks ridiculous on telly. But 5,500 is more than say Sale Sharks' average attendance. Sale Sharks got to the final of the Premiership, but their average attendance is 5,400 according to these stats. So the full-on numbers. I mean, Leinster get about the same as Leicester, and obviously the South Africans, since they come in, have inflated the numbers quite a lot. So all of the URC viewership and attendance stats have all gone through the roof since the South Africans come in, unsurprisingly. In terms of the Welsh sides, so Cardiff and the Scarlets are both averaging between 7,000 and 8,000, and that would put them in the bottom half of the Premiership attendances.
See, I think this is the problem. Is we keep saying, people would come and if we were in the Anglo-Welsh, well, people would come, away supporters would come. It's bollocks. Work on growing your own people. Connect with the people in your area, and build. Make sure you fill your stadium, and you don't care if the people from away come. And if you're walking out on Parker Scarlett and there's, the capacity is 14,000. So let's say there's 12,000 Scarlets fans and 2,000 of your own fans. You're intimidated the minute you walk out that stadium. And that's the difference. Is we need to be not focused on bloody, who can we get from away. We need to be focused on how do we build our fan base to a bit where actually we're bursting at the seams, and that's what I'd like to see happen.
Yeah, I think to your point, Carwyn, I think it would be team by team. So I know that like Scarlet's Bath is a sort of a rivalry. It's the Ragdoll Derby, isn't it? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So I think that would be a big game. I think, Cardiff or Dragons versus
Gloucester
Newcastle
would be ours.
Yeah.
We got a rivalry with Gloucester going ever since we beat them in Europe. We always seem to get them in Europe, don't we? Yeah.
Ospreys have a rivalry with Leicester,
Leicester, yeah.
And also to a certain extent, Northampton Saints.
Yeah, I think that I think those would be good ones. I don't see Newcastle Falcons coming to any Welsh region and filling the stadiums, or us go any of the Welsh regions going up there. So I think to your point, Lee, I think if there was an Anglo-Welsh league, I think there would be a big spike in interest, and then I think it would die down again. And I think my point would be the Scarlets' attendances rocketed the year we won the league. And then when we started doing badly again, the crowds went down again. And I sadly, I think it's as simple as that when it comes to
what a shock. Are you saying that winning increases crowds? Surely not. Success pulls crowds? No way.
But we need to find other ways of connecting with supporters. I've been a Scarlet supporter for 10, 15 years now, give or take, in and out various different levels. But in all that time, we've had one really successful season. So I'm not a fan because of the success. Do you know what I mean? There's other things, and that's where I think the money in Welsh rugby needs to be spent. Is to how do you connect with more people and make them feel like that's their region. I think it's
engagement, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that comes down to the community teams as well, doesn't it? The community teams can help drive engagement and interest, working with kids, putting on camps in the community. I mean, to be fair to the Dragons, the one thing I will say, we have got an excellent community team. That's not me being biased, but they did win the URC award for community engagement. So things like that really does help. But also, success does pull crowds. It is the biggest driver for crowds is success. And if you're not winning games, it's very difficult to attract. The diehards are always going to be there. We've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
The diehards will turn up week in, week out, whether they're winning or not. But what you've got to do is to attract the casual sports fan or the friend of a friend. And if you're losing week in, week out, if you get a reputation like the Dragons have, it's very difficult to attract people through the gates because they want to see a winning product. They want to see success.
So let's talk about success then, Hugh. Let's look at Europe. Who's had the most success in Europe? English sides or non-English sides?
So it depends how far you want to go back. So if you go back to like the early noughties, obviously Leicester Tigers were the kings of everything, and they won a lot in Europe. In recent years, so in the last couple of seasons, particularly this most recent season, hands down the URC teams beats the English teams. Yeah, so the English teams in the Champions Cup have got a 40% win rate against URC sides. So i.e. 6 times out of 10, the URC team beats the English Premiership side. And in the Challenge Cup, it's even worse. In the Challenge Cup, the English teams only win 33% of the games.
See, so, I'm liking that as a set of stats. As a fan of a URC team, I'm taking that every day of the week.
But the real kicker, so away form. So English sides travelling away to URC sides. So whether that be Ireland, Italy, South Africa, Wales, wherever, Out of 14 away games, Premiership sides played against URC teams, they won 2, and one of them was Zebra.
That's interesting.
See, that's class stuff. That is. I mean, do they not travel? Well, they must travel well, because if you're going from Sale down to Exeter, that's a hefty old trip anyway.
Yeah, it's not Connacht to Cape Town though, is it? Yeah. So
no, it's a good point.
So I think the longest away trip in the English Premiership is like 350 miles, which is
Newcastle to Exeter.
Yeah. And that's that's practically next door in URC terms. So I think that's probably a big part of it.
So do you think then that we're kind of, because we are now traveling to South Africa and we're, Scotland and this and the other. Well, no, but the sides are. But do you think that we're just more used to playing, further away from home? Does it not affect us, that playing away from home?
I think so. I think that's definitely a big favour. I mean, look at New Zealand. I think in their yearly rugby calendar, I think they circumnavigate the world twice, some stuff like that. With the air miles that they rack up. How
much does it put a strain on the budgets, for that travel cost? Going to South Africa, going over to Ireland, going up to
It's not good for the environment, is it? Let's be honest. The carbon footprint to the URC,
Yeah.
Boys, that's a separate conversation, but
they can hop on a train in Wales, you know what I mean? Just down the road, well, when they're not striking. But
I mean, you could literally walk in between Scarlets and Ospreys. I think it would take you about an hour, maybe a bit more, to walk in between the two, wouldn't it? It's I just don't know. Are we now, as a set of teams, are we just more used to playing with, the side against you? Are we more used to having to travel? Have we perfected the art of traveling long distance and then playing rapidly after it? Do we rest players the week before that we know we're going to travel the week after, that sort of thing? Do you know what I mean? Whereas maybe the Gallagher Premiership are a bit more kind of headstrong with, we know we're the best, so we're taking the best team and we're just going to go down there and do what we do. And they don't make that adjustment, So
so two things that I think people will be listening to this saying in response would be, number one, some English Premiership teams don't try in Europe and they put out weaker teams because they focus on the league. And my answer to that would be, all the teams who do that, like Newcastle, like Gloucester, are also bottom of the English Premiership. So are they not putting out their strongest team in that either? So I think that kind of excuse of, oh, you only beat us because we weren't trying, that's a bit playground for me. I don't think that's a genuine reason. And if you're so good, your second should beat us anyway, shouldn't they? And then the other argument is the flip side, is that the URC teams rest their teams in the league and then play a strong team in Europe. I think that's probably Leinster have perpetuated that.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Against Munster in the semi-final, which backfired on them big time. And even then, they didn't win the final against La Rochelle.
But the Welsh sides generally, unless you guys disagree, generally play their strongest team every week, whether it's Europe or URC. And all of the Welsh sides, with the exception of Ospreys, who got knocked out by eventual English champions Saracens at Saracens, the Dragons, Cardiff and Scarlets all got knocked out by other URC teams. So they didn't lose to English sides in Europe.
It's just when they have their Welsh internationals available, because sometimes Welsh regions haven't got that, and they do like a stand down period, didn't they? Before they don't chuck them straight in after internationals.
Whereas in
like
England,
in summer companies,
back in, aren't they?
England and France still chuck them straight in. We don't do that in Wales, so I don't know if we have. We probably can pick the strongest team they can, but it's not always necessary for the Welsh internationals, I suppose. It's very much dependent on availability.
So, how else do we evaluate? Who's the best? What else can we look at that says we're better than England?
So you can look at some of the stats of the kind of general natures of the game. So generally speaking, I'm going to talk through how some of the stats compare between the URC and the Premiership. Now, some stats like points scored, tries scored are black and white. You can't interpret them any other way. Some stats like defenders beaten, clean breaks and things are a bit more subjective. And I think the Premiership and the URC use different data analysis, and the URC site has a couple of bugs, I'm going to be honest. So, but I've tried to use as consistent sources of data as possible to tell you that in the English game, you generally see slightly more clean breaks. You generally see slightly more defenders beaten, and you slightly see more meters made. However, you do not see more tries scored or points scored. So you could say that the English are doing a lot more running rugby, but it's not transforming into tries or points scored.
See, that's interesting, and I think that comes back to the bit about the perception that I think they've got their marketing right. Where they'll take all of that stuff, and you'll see the adverts with the breaks on, and and you'll go, well, that's 10 breaks and this, that, and the other, and you'll see them use that a lot more. But like you say, the end product is actually very, very similar.
Very similar, very similar. It's averaging across the league, averaging 7 tries a game for both leagues. So it's actually surprisingly similar for points scored. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that one's better than the other. It could be that 7 amazing tries being scored in one and 7 crap tries being scored in the other. But whilst the English are running it a lot more, they're not actually turning that into points on the board compared to the URC teams, which would be more in line. The URC would be more in line with international rugby from that point of view, because you don't get running rugby in international rugby, apart from 1 or 2 teams.
But see, I still think 7 tries a game is quite decent. If that's your average, because I remember way back a couple of years where there was a whole glut of games where it was just penalties. Literally we were not scoring tries left, right, and centre. And so I think 7 tries a game. That's a good. Both of them are quite decent products, really, aren't they?
Yeah, I think in the URC it is skewed a tiny bit by Zebra, who concede an average between 5 and 6 tries a game average.
I'd say Dragons as well. And I'm not saying that to be funny. I think, the Dragons probably skew with that as well, if I'm being honest.
The Dragons are bottom of a few of these metrics, I'm afraid, Jamie. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Well, there we are, see? There we go.
He's just being kind by not telling you, mate.
No, I knew that anyway, let's be honest.
Can I just change the subject before we go a little bit further? I'm sitting here looking at you guys, and I've been off for a couple of weeks. And I just want to explain to the listeners what I'm looking at. So we've got us all here with our headsets on. We've got Hugh, looks like he's working in the steelworks with some nice big old headsets on. Lee looks like he's in pilot training. And Jamie looks like he's working for Nev in a call centre selling hair products.
Nev from the call centre, the late great Nev.
The late great Nev, yes. So if there is anyone,
in other words, Carwyn, we look more professional than you. That's
well, I wouldn't say at the moment. So what I'm asking,
well, I would.
Is there anyone out there who wants to give us some podcasting kit, earphones, the works? Feel free. Anyway,
what you mean?
Back to it, guys.
You would like a set of headphones like us, is what you mean? Wouldn't you?
Well, yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's getting at. He's jealous of our headwear. That's what.
I just don't wear my wife's headphones. That's all.
I'm not going to lie, I do look like I'm on the call centre for like British Gas or something, don't I? I know that, but it is actually really good sound on these, and the microphone is a lot better.
Yeah. No, you couldn't be in a. You're smiling, mate. So that takes you out of a call centre straight away. There's no way.
That's one job I couldn't do, because I just don't like people enough to talk to them, especially angry customers. I couldn't deal with that shit. Being shouted at, and you know what that's like, Carwyn, don't you?
I know exactly what that's like.
Oh, thanks.
Fucking hell. Right, so what else can we look at then, Hugh? What else are we on?
Just one last thing I'll throw in on that is that Scarlets were 3rd in the URC for clean breaks last season. Which
how many tries did they score off those clean breaks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kept fucking up the last pass, didn't we? It was yes.
What I will say, point for the English Premiership is that it is a lot closer. So it's a lot more competitive between the teams. They're more closely grouped, and you do see Newcastle beating Saracens or Sale. So the bottom team beating the top team. That does happen in the English Premiership, whereas it doesn't really happen in the URC. However, I will say that only with 10 teams in the URC, in the English Premiership now, if you took the middle 10 teams of the URC, I think that would be very close as well. I think the URC suffers from having a lot of teams in it, meaning you have more better teams and more less good teams. And also, I think the asymmetrical format of the URC kind of contributes to that, as in Newcastle play Saracens home and away, whereas Dragons play Leinster home or away. And I think that probably contributes to why you see fewer of the bottom teams beating the top teams in the URC.
It is interesting that the way they structured the league when it grew with, at one point we didn't even have Italy. It was just Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and what have you. So then it was Italy and now South Africa and stuff. So it is interesting to see why didn't they split it into a first and second division sort of a thing, isn't it? Why run it that way? And maybe that's something that will come in a few more years, because I'm imagining South Africa still want to get the Cheetahs back in. That's they're keen for the Cheetahs to play in Europe. So,
that's we know that the Challenge Cup draw is happening on Wednesday, but we don't know who the two invitational teams to play in it are going to be yet.
Cheetahs again, one of them. I bet one of them Cheetahs.
So I think it will be the Cheetahs, and it might either be another Currie Cup side, or potentially my wild card to throw in there would be Ealing. Might get invited to play in it.
That'll be interesting, wouldn't it? That's Carwyn's second team, that is Ealing.
Yeah, we will have another Ealing on this podcast. Ealing or Jersey?
Ealing, I think. Possibly.
When we're talking about number of sides in the competition, then, so let's talk about the number of sides that have gone bust in the URC against the Gallagher Premiership. And I think the Gallagher Premiership wins that hands down. And I'm not making light of it, because I know there's people's jobs and livelihoods and families and all of that kind of stuff are there. But my take on it is that that's happened because people have tried to buy success and it hasn't worked. And the good thing about the URC is, where we have more kind of union involvement and this, that, and the other, the potential for one side having a massive amount of money and somebody else not is reduced. It still happens. We've still got Leinster, who just seem to have a squad of about 250. But do you know what I mean? There's nobody there living beyond their means in the URC, where I think it's very, very easy to do in the Gallagher Premiership.
Yeah, I think
salary cap, isn't it? That's the difference. Sorry to interrupt you, but they got a salary cap in England, but that should have come in a lot sooner. Clubs have been living beyond their means, but in the URC we haven't got a salary cap. So the URC, you could argue, is a bit lopsided. It's not really an even competition. Like, it's not a level playing field, because we don't even know Leinster's salary, do we? We don't know their salary cap. I mean, it's believed to be over 10 million euros. And you got Dragons now on 5, and the other Welsh teams are coming down. We're going to be below the Irish, Scottish, South African, and even the Italian teams. So it's not really a level playing field, the URC. I think that's one argument you can make against it. But I mean, at least we haven't got clubs going bust yet. It may happen in Wales. We don't know, do we? So.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Mark and I where he was asked, is it Mark and I who's this URC?
Martin O'Neill, yeah.
Sorry. So he was asked about salary caps, and he said he'd consider it, but unfortunately, because you've got the euro, the pound, and the rand, South African rand, it's like impossible. And what you can buy with like 10 million euros worth of South African rand in South Africa is like so much more than what 10 million euros gets you in Ireland.
It's true.
So it's very difficult.
It is,
But obviously we had the whole Saracens thing with the salary cap as well, which was a contributor to driving player salaries through the roof. They tried to compete with France, which they weren't able to do. And it was sad. I went to the English Premiership final at Twickenham, and it wasn't like 50% Sale fans, 50% Saracens fans. I'd say it was 20-20, and the rest was neutrals. And I probably saw more Wasps jerseys than Saracens jerseys at Twickenham. And that, that is a bit of a dig at Saracens, yes, but it's also quite sad that, their club had been bust by that point for over 6 months. And they were still there in their jerseys. And it's kind of like, these guys aren't just going to go and support another team. They're just kind of lost now. They're lost to the rugby public.
And that's what happened in Wales, by the way, when one of our teams go. Like, say, for example, if the Dragons went, if people think, just go down and support Cardiff, they fucking won't. They just won't. They'll just give up on rugby, or they'll turn to football or do something else. And same with the Ospreys. If they go, they're not just going to turn to the Scarlets or Cardiff. Anyone, they'll go, I'm done. It's sad, isn't it? It's sad when you lose a team, when you've invested in and you follow all your life, you put a lot of money into it, and you take your family, for that to be suddenly taken away like that. I feel for the Worcester, London Irish and Moss fans, it's pretty shitty, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's again, we've spoken God knows how many times about, the structure of the game, the governance of the game. And, if they're having problems in England, we're having problems in Wales. Scotland has had its issues this year as well in terms of governance. I don't know if there's governance issues in Ireland, but there's enough of us having governance issues to kind of turn around and say, right, hang on a tick, boys, something's not right, and we need to put this right together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to do
in Ireland for the men's team, no, but for the women's team, I think I had some serious issues.
Yeah, that's true.
But in England as well, it's a very different setup. So you got kind of three parties in England. You got the RFU, you got the clubs, and then you got Gallagher or Premiership Rugby, which is a separate company again. So the clubs come into bother and they go, RFU, bail us out. And RFU goes, nothing to do with us, mate. You need to talk to Premiership Rugby. And Premiership Rugby goes, well, I don't know what you want us to do. You clubs, you make all the decisions, so it's on your own. And so it just goes like that.
Yeah.
So it's just...
The clubs hold the power, don't they, in England? That's the difference. Whereas in the URC, like, it's the WRU, like, it's a union competition, so they hold the power. But in England, it's run by the clubs, effectively.
I think the English wouldn't like you to know just how much... This is speculation. Preface this with that. I don't think the English clubs would like you to know how much power they wield. I think that some of the clubs in England have got like rugby calendar defining levels of influence, where they can say, I think it was the English clubs who kiboshed the Six Nations getting moved to later in the season to be played in the summer. I think so. Yeah, so
it's
they
true.
take with one hand, but they give.
Well, the English clubs, they kicked off about Heineken, didn't they? The Heineken Cup. That was what started the reform. It was the English and French. They kicked off. So they do hold a lot of power. You're right. I agree with that.
And the Lions, they don't release players for the Lions.
That's right. Yeah.
So, how big an influence or how big a difference is it with French clubs now then? Because that's where the money is now, is with French clubs. So how impacted... Gallagher Premiership has pushed itself up there for so long, going, come to us, earn your big money. This is the place to be if you want to win big money. And now that's France. So they're losing players to France, left, right, and centre. So how big an influence is France having on the state of the Gallagher Premiership, if that makes sense?
So we're seeing a lot of players for the first time that I can remember leaving the Gallagher Premiership to go to France, because England have obviously got the if you don't play in England, you don't get picked rule, which they waived this season because the clubs went bust, and so those players they wanted to pick that couldn't be picked from an English club. But you got Exeter have had an exodus, the Exodus. Loads of players going abroad, and we've seen a couple of others. Zach Mercer's left Quins and has gone to Stade Francais, and I think we'll see a few others, not least Marcus Smith, who is heavily rumoured to be going to Racing 92 for about a cool $500,000 a year, is the rumour in the rugby paper. And I think particularly Marcus Smith, who is very much the poster boy of English rugby at the moment, if he were to go to France and walk out on Harlequins, I think that would be a massive kick in the teeth for the English Premiership.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus Smith would be unheard of, wouldn't it? That is the equivalent of when Dan Bigger left. because Dan Bigger was golden bollocks at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah, but there's a difference here, isn't there? Dan Bigger's still eligible for Wales. If Marcus Smith moves to France, but don't forget he doesn't play for England, so he's got a massive decision to make about that, because he's effectively sacrificing his international career. But he'll have a very secure future because the money they pay in France is outrageous. I mean, look what we're seeing in Wales at the moment. We're seeing a lot of Welsh rugby players go to the Pro D2. And everyone is like, oh, why are they going to the second division? You know, says a lot for the state of Welsh rugby. It's like, well, it's a good standard of rugby for a start. You know, it's not a farmers league at all. And the money they're paying is fucking mega bucks. French rugby is founded on sugar daddies and a massive TV deal. That's the one benefit they have. Well, they got a few benefits, actually. That's one of the biggest things they have over the English Prem and the URC. Canal Plus, they've got a massive contract for television. And that's what we in the URC need. Instead of this fire play. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but this TV deal we're on.
We'll come onto that now then. So that is something I wanted to talk about. So I know, Lee, you expressed on the podcast a couple of weeks ago that you are not a fan of Viaplay.
It's not so much that, it's the fact that the fucking thing doesn't work. And
you're talking about the app, yeah.
Yeah, well, when it was Premier Sports, I used to be able to cast it off my laptop to my telly, and I could pretty much, guarantee I could watch it. And you could have two people watching the same channel. So I could watch it, my boy could watch it away in college. And we could have a chat, and we could, we'd be WhatsApping while we're both watching the same game and going, another yellow card for the Scarlets. What a bunch of bastards, But yeah, I don't know what's changed with Viaplay.
Well, you know what it was with Viaplay? So when you signed up for it, it asked who's your favourite team, and you put in Scarlets. And they thought, we're going to have some fun with this twat. and they kept on losing the signal. But
no, it did. But before you used to have, you'd be able to watch all the games. They'd all be there on Backplay, so you could just go and watch whatever game you wanted whenever. You could roll it back and forth, so you could look at certain bits and work out what was happening. And now it's just extended highlights, and you're just like, they've kind of lost the purpose. I'm certainly not renewing this year, and I know.
But, can you get it through your TV? Because I just have it through my TV. So I'm with Virgin Media, and I have Viaplay through there, and I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. Yet I know people who have the app, and they keep complaining about it buffering and cutting out. I mean, can you not get through your telly? Do you have Sky or Virgin? What do you have? What's your?
I'm on BT, and I'm on BT.
Oh, they don't have it on there, do they? No.
But I'm on BT because I wanted to watch the bloody European rugby. So.
But you can get BT with Virgin.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Yeah, BT Sport Virgin. That's right.
Yeah.
So I
can't get Virgin down here. So. They ask for a ridiculous amount of money. So
there's not many Virgins in Pembroke.
There's a few more now that you've left, but yeah.
Oh, it's a contribution. It's just comic relief tonight. This is it. Like, we're trying to have a serious conversation, and then you're just chipping with a joke or two. Like,
mate, and this is non-alcoholic beer. Yeah. Oh, dear.
It's gone to your head, that Heineken 0 plus. Whatever.
Yeah. I have to have a glass of wine to settle me down.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of watching it on Tinternet or anything. So yeah.
So I've got the Viaplay app, and I cast it to my telly to watch the games, and it does buffer and it does crash occasionally, but it's gone from Premier Sports to that, and the Premier Sport app looked like it was made in about 2008. It was like that was a poor app. Kind of the analogy I'd make. Sometimes you get, if anybody watches Formula One, sometimes you see a sponsor on the side of the car and you think, I've never heard of that company. What is that? And it comes out years later that it was a company that didn't exist and it was made up and they had 50p in the bank account. URC somehow sold its TV rights to a broadcaster that didn't exist. Like no one had ever heard of it. I think it had American ice hockey was the only other sport that it showed. So I think that was just bizarre. But what I will say now is that now it's on Viaplay. Viaplay have the rights to the top 14 as well. So the other night when the top 14 final was on, a lot of URC fans were tuned into the top 14 final. And we're talking about that on Twitter. So it goes to show, if we did have a rugby broadcaster, which has been mooted for a while, that would work, that people would tune into all the different leagues.
That's the dream now, isn't it? To have a rugby channel with all the leagues on there. I don't think it'll ever happen. personally, but I'd love it to. I don't think it will.
Too good of an idea.
Yeah, it makes too much sense, but there'd be complications with contracts and everything, like the rights and everything. I don't think it would happen, but I'd love that. I'd love to just everything on one channel. It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Make life easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but that is the issue, isn't it? You've got so many different things in different places that you can't commit. If you commit to one, then you're kind of stuck with that, and you have to forego some of the others unless you've got a bit of cash floating around, like, you know. And most people don't nowadays. If you try and say to the missus, "Can I get 4 channels? I'm going to pay for 4 different channels to watch, you know, maybe 2 games on each channel per year, and one of them I'm going to watch most of it on." No, that's not happening, and rightly so too. And, you know, for me, the day Amazon commits to sports properly is the day that the URC goes, "Thank you very much. Hello, here we go." Because
I completely agree.
Yeah,
that's who I would choose to be the broadcaster, would be Amazon, just because so many people have it for something else already.
Yeah.
So it's in front of
Do we
guys.
not think, though, here's a question then, so do we not think for more reach and engagement with the audience, should there not be a balance between free-to-air and pay-per-view? So at the moment, you do have quite a few Welsh games, don't you, on BBC Wales? Then you have some on S4C, and then they're all on Viaplay. So going forward, do you think that should still be an option? So they're having that hybrid of, I mean, even the Premiership, to be fair, there's some games that'll be in on ITV, isn't there? And they had the final on ITV in the afternoon. This is my only concern, because with pay-per-view, it brings money into the sport, and that's needed, of course it is. But you are limiting your audience a little bit, aren't you? Whereas if it's on free-to-air, everybody has ITV, everybody has BBC. Not everyone has Viaplay. Some people have never heard of Viaplay. I was on the school run. I remember a few months ago, I was just talking about what you do tonight. I started watching the rugby, like, Dragons, wherever. He said, "What channel is that on?" I said, "Oh, it's on Viaplay." He said, "What's that?" He never heard of it, the dad I spoke to. And I said, "Have you got Sky?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, it's on Sky, Viaplay." He said, "I've never noticed it." And some problem. Some people never even heard of Viaplay. You don't know what it is, so how to access it. Like,
yeah, it's a good point, and I think that would be good to keep, as you say, to keep a split. So have 1 game a week or 2 games a week, whatever it is, on free to air. Then I think absolutely, like they currently do, that is the right thing to do.
But that's where Amazon would come in, because everyone's heard of Amazon Prime, and for 7 or 8 quid a month to get 4 games of rugby, 5 games of rugby, maybe, plus you'd be able to watch, if everything was in the same place, you'd be able to watch.
If it had everything, if it had Super Rugby as well, I would literally wake up on a Saturday morning and I would sit in front of rugby all day, and I would watch the Super Rugby, watch the URC, I'd watch the top 14, watch it all. But that's
living the dream.
Living
the dream. Well, Amazon already showing the World Cup warm-up games, and of course they've shown the internationals before, haven't they? So they are used to showing rugby, and to be fair, I quite like Amazon's coverage. What I will say, though, I know it's a slightly separate point, the Six Nations for me must stay on free-to-air. I do not want to go into Amazon. I don't want to go into BT. It should remain on free-to-air, and it's a big balls up by the government not to have it as it was a Category A sport. If it's a Category A sport, it's protected, and the government, so it has to be on free-to-air, like Wimbledon and the Football World Cup. The Six Nations should have been a protected event. It got to stay on free-to-air. Don't know what you feel about that, but that's how I feel about it.
Well, sorry, go on, Nick.
No, I was just saying it is one of those ones that sometimes you need like a foot in the door for non-traditional fans. Do you know what I mean? Like you were saying earlier, that when you got when your side's winning, people just seem to grow from nowhere and start visiting the stadium and stuff. You do need something that is there that kind of can get people interested, and they can go, "Where can I see more of this?" This is where cricket has kind of shot itself in the foot, because there's no cricket on free to air at all now. You cannot see any
except
cricket.
Highlights. It's just highlights. BBC got highlights.
But
that's no live cricket, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And I used to sit there and I would watch a 5-day test. I would genuinely watch a 5-day test. And
you're missing out on the Ashes. It's been brilliant, mate. You need to get yourself Sky Sports.
I know, but that's it. A mate of mine had it, and he was watching it on his phone. But the link that used to be there, broken now. Do you know what I mean? So
I know what you mean.
We went out and just knocked the ball around with a bat and ball, and just let's play. Do you know what I mean? So I think you do need something like the Six Nations that is free. But then this comes down to the marketing again. You know, how do you connect those people to come and watch the Dragons at Rodney Parade, isn't it?
And it's money as well, because let's not forget, not everyone can afford Amazon. I mean, what about if you're an elderly person? You know, if you're a pensioner and you want to watch Wales, you don't know what the fuck Amazon Prime is. You don't know how to work a Fire Stick. All right, there's ways around. You can ask a family or friend, but it's difficult for those people, isn't it? For the low-income people and pensioners, there's going to be a certain group of, you know, categories of people that's going to find it really difficult to access, you know, pay-per-view games.
And indeed, stupid people. You know, Carwyn, how do you do it? Oh, he missed that one.
Yeah, he's told you, Carwyn. He's told you he was.
Don't worry, mate. I'm taking the piss. Don't worry.
Next time.
So talking about marketing then, in the words of John Inverdale, let's talk about England.
Do we have to?
So what do you guys make of ITV and BT Sports coverage of the English rugby club sides? I'll preface this debate with is whenever a European game is on at BT Sports, I check Twitter, all anybody's talking about is BT Sports coverage of it. So what are your guys' thoughts on BT Sport?
I think they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I do. I think they've got some good commentators, got some, you know, good presenters here. They know what they're talking about. And I do enjoy their coverage of the matches that go on when I'm allowed to watch them. You know, I don't know about. I agree with the BBC thing, the free to air and everything else. I completely agree with that. But BT over ITV, definitely. BT over Amazon, that's a tough one. They're still good, but like I say, Amazon, everyone's got it. Was it £6 a month? I don't know what Amazon is these days. But 8 is it? Okay. Yeah. So all right, £8 a month. And it's got everything else you want on there. But I do like BT Sports. If it's showing up like it's a European game or it's a big Premiership game, I'll watch it.
I think the difference is that if you switch on to watch a BT Sport game, there's an hour's worth of build-up. And they've got the stats and they've got all of the fancy stuff, and you know, and then they've got, you know, highlights from last week, and here's some stuff that we picked out, and then it's like, well, let's have a chat with a few supporters, let's have a chat with a couple of players. You know, we were at the training camp this week and we spoke to so and so, and then let's go and have a chat with the coach. And you know what I mean? It's a build up, whereas Scrum 5 and S4C, the kickoff is at 7:35.
5 minutes, isn't it? Yeah. It's like 5 minutes of build up.
The program starts at 7:30, and you've got 5 minutes of build up, which is somebody going, "What have the WIU fucked up this week? Let's have a chat about that. Now let's go play some rugby." And it comes back to that. How do you connect with people? You know,
you say that. So what I'm disappointed, like I said, with S4C, that they don't have the English commentary anymore. And that for me was
big. Don't they?
No,
they do.
No,
not on all games. It depends. Yeah.
Well, they do for the league, but they won't for international matches, don't they? Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's just my TV. I don't know.
No, for European games, they say before the game, we cannot provide English commentary because of contractual reasons.
Yeah. Right. URC, they definitely have English commentary for it.
Do they?
Yeah. It's just as you said, it's the European games and the Welsh internationals. But I agree with you actually, Carwyn, about BT. I do like BT Sport, and they have got good pundits. They got really good coverage. I mean, even Austin Ely, when he's not being a prick, he's actually a really good analyst. When he's not being a prick, right? He is a really good analyst. I'm being serious now. It's just when he's being a smarmy prick. Like that's when he really grates on me.
Out for boxing matches, you know.
Yeah, follow switch. He's just an arse, but he is a good analyst. But one thing that BT do really well compared to the other broadcasters, they really do hype up their product, and they do hype up the English Premiership so much.
They do.
You know, and even on their social media channels, they're really good putting out these clips and pumping out all this stuff. And that's something the URC has got to be better at. Now, in terms of ITV, I don't like ITV doing any sport. I don't care what it is, don't care if it's rugby, football, or anything. I don't like ITV's coverage. And I hate the fact that they have the rights for the Rugby World Cup, but they have done for years, and that really grates on me. But what I will say is ITV's coverage of rugby for the club games, when they cover the English Premiership and the European coverage, it's actually okay because you've got Flatman, Top Jojo on it, and they're really good. But I just don't like the international coverage. But we can learn a lot from BT. I do like BT, but by God, do they overhype their product. I think the Gallagher Premiership is the best thing ever. And
so
it's
that
really
was
not.
my point about it was I understand that they've got to praise it to sell it. From their point of view, they've got a product to sell.
Yeah.
Like after the European football, the Champions League final the other day, everyone was on Twitter saying the same thing. Like, these BT lads, they could just chill out about a couple of things.
McManaman was very annoying doing that Champions League final. I will say that. I know this is a rugby podcast, but Steve McManaman, dear God. Yeah. Sorry, carry on here.
So yeah, and I think if you watch a lot of rugby, so I think BT is still trying to sell to the casual fan, which is cool. They're trying to sell the products and grow the game. But there's obviously, as we said, watching club rugby is a lot of diehards. And I think if you do watch a lot of club rugby, you can find, every try, like I said, averages 7 tries a game. And if you're watching 4 or 5 games a weekend all season, and every try is, oh my God, what an amazing try. Blah, blah, blah. There's no one better in the world. This guy you've never heard of plays for Bristol. He's the best thing since sliced bread. Like, it does get a bit tiring after a while. And you do think, like I said, when I went to Twickenham, I drove back with my mate who's a Sale fan. And we stuck on, this wasn't BT Sport to be fair, we stuck on BBC's Rugby Union Weekly, which is a podcast I normally quite enjoy. And they had Matt Dawson on, and they were hyperboling about this English Premiership final, which was a very average game between, two sides that aren't Surrey's not at their peak, and Sale, who, sorry for being horrible, I don't think are a particularly special rugby team. And Matt Dawson was just going off on one about it. This is the same Matt Dawson who said that no South Africans get into the English team ahead of the World Cup final.
What time?
That worked out well for him, didn't it?
Yeah.
Really well for him.
And me and my mate were sat in the car listening to this podcast and thinking, are they talking about the game that we went to see? It was just a little bit cringe. Now, like I say, I see being positive sells the game, and I totally get that. And obviously, I think, particularly in Wales, where the opposite is, we'll talk it down, and wonder why no one likes it. But at the same time, it's a bit like a cake that's all made out of icing sugar. It's like, I'm going to be sick in a minute.
Yeah, I watched our final, the English Premiership final, and it was okay. Obviously, you was there. It was fine, wasn't it? It wasn't dull or boring. But the URC final was better, in my humble opinion. That Stormers Munster game was terrific, and the way the Munster run, it was just pure drama. I thought it was brilliant. But you are right. I think Fireplay Sports, they just need to find a way of sort of hyping it up, haven't they, and building more coverage, more excitement around it. Because we talked about this, Lee, on the Scarlets podcast, the Scarlets review we did with Grav. That game, Munster versus Scarlets, 49-42. I said to you, that was the best game of rugby I saw all season. It was better than any game I saw in the English Premiership. It was fucking brilliant.
That was a great game.
35-7 Scarlets were down, and they could have nicked it in the end. And if I'd been a Gallagher Premiership, if I'd been Super Rugby or Top 14, it would have been hyped up to death on Twitter. It would have done the rounds for at least a week. But it was one of the best games of rugby I've seen in a very long time. And I think that's what we need to put that more promotion around it.
What that needed was the Ospreys media team behind it.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a good one now. Now we've got a decent one.
Yeah.
Yeah, now they are.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've said this about 4 or 5 times. My favourite bit from the Ospreys this year was at Judgment Day, where they introduced the Ospreys and it was like the stuff was going, the fireworks, the Ospreys. Yeah. Here come Cardiff. There we go, lovely jump. And it was like, I was like, you've got shit houses behind the microphone. This is what you want. But this is what I think we miss in Wales. People should be, there's 7 or 8 podcasts similar to us. Yeah. But do this week in, week out. And we're all sitting there, we're all fans and we're all talking. And clubs should be engaging with us, and they should be going, well, look, boys, let's have a couple of sessions. Let's put some players on there. We should be, they should be on the papers. They should be on the news. They should be doing their own podcast. They should be having their YouTube channels or whatever. They should be promoting what they're doing, And
they do have YouTube channels, mind in fairness, they do, and they've got their own social media channels. But it would be good if they had like their own official podcasts and stuff.
Sorry, Lee.
No, as I say, they just shit at it. They just, do you know what I mean?
The URC have tried to get a number of podcasts off the ground, and some of them have been not good. One that was good was Under the Sticks that had Sean Holly and Andy McGeady and Paul Williams on it. I really like that. I'm really sad that's not going anymore. But there were a couple of others, and I won't name who the presenters were, that were a bad idea and bad executed.
Just to be clear, that wasn't us.
No, not you guys. Not you guys. You guys are officially sponsored by the URC. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I think we should be.
Can you imagine?
But they should, now I come to think of it, they should have an Irish URC podcast, they should have a Welsh URC podcast, they should have a Scottish one.
Yeah.
The URC highlights that Viaplay put up, or might be the URC official page put up, they look like they've been edited by a drunk person. They have like tries missing. They have they show like the build up to the try, but they're not actually the try going over. They show the celebration, but not the try itself. It's bizarre.
They do whatever system they've got, that because you can see the bit at the end is about this. You miss about the same amount at the end that you get extra at the start. So somewhere in the system, their timing sequence is wrong, and when they put in, record from 1 minute to 1 minute 23 or whatever, it's at the wrong place. But the fact that nobody goes back and watches that before they put it out and notices that something is wrong says that, they're just not, maybe they're not rugby fans that are doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Wasn't CVC supposed to sort of increase the value and the promotion? Because when they joined, all we heard about was, look what they did with Formula One, and they promoted that. It was a huge sport. Audiences increased. Well, that hasn't happened in URC. So
they're on radio silence. They're on complete radio silence.
Yeah, it was a bit of a con with Formula One, actually, because if you look at CVC now, Formula One's Liberty Media, it's absolutely exploded. CVC and Bernie Eccleston didn't really do much for Formula One, in my opinion. So I think all the hype, I think that once they lost Formula One, they wanted to get something back in their portfolio from sport. They've gone down rugby, and
it hasn't worked so far, though. And they can't be happy with 3 clubs going from their product, the English Premiership. They can't be happy with how it's going.
Well, it wasn't that talked about the BT Sport going to ask for a bit of money back because
they've asked for a rebate. Yeah, so they're going to be rebranded soon into TNT Sports, and obviously they've renegotiated a new contract with the RFU for rights, and they've asking for a rebate because they're saying, well, we're going to get less games now, so you're not going to get the same payment or more because we're getting less from you. So English rugby is going to lose more money.
Shocking. So here's a question, right? Completely off field. So who's got the best mascots? The funny guys that run around the outside of the pitch, yeah? And like are meant to cheer the crowd up and do all of that. When you look at like I'll watch stupid TikTok videos from like some of the guys that do basketball ones and ice hockey ones and American football ones and stuff like that. And those guys are completely off their heads. They really get into they've got their own fan clubs. Some of the basketball mascots have got their own fan clubs. Yeah. So I couldn't actually name all 4 Welsh mascots.
What's the Scarlett one called? Do you know your own mascot?
Yeah, it's the dragon. Oh my God. Shit, I do.
The dragon.
I fucking spoke to the guy.
It's a guy now, not a dragon, yeah?
I can't remember.
The Ospreys one, Carwyn. You know the Ospreys one?
Ossie the Osprey.
Ossie the Osprey.
That's right.
What's Cardiff got?
Blue Bear.
It's got to be in blue, isn't it?
They've sacked off their mascot. They can't afford him. They're so skint. They can't afford him, so they sacked him off.
He's gone to a pro deer club. He's gone to a pro
They put him in at outside half for next season, is what they've done. Who's the Dragons? What's the Dragon?
We got two. We got a boy and a girl. We got Rodney the Dragon, and Anwen for the girls, which is quite nice, really.
Yeah. I did not know that. Right. Sorry, go on, carry on.
That's your homework, mate. That's your homework to go and find out what the Dragons are. Sorry, what the Scout. And I'm quite shocked that you don't know it.
I do know it. And I had it in my head when I started that question, and it's completely gone out of my head. But
painful. Call yourself a fan.
While you're thinking about it, I just want to mention, moving forward to Saturday, that it's the Under-20s Rugby World Cup starting with the opening game of Wales versus New Zealand. And we are in a pool of death with France, New Zealand, and Japan. So, I just reading the article today, young Ryan Woodman, who is the captain in Wales, they said, look, we don't fear the All Blacks because the last 3 times we played them, we beat them twice. And he's really, really eloquent in what he says. He's like, there's nothing to fear. They should be fearing us. People said we had a poor Six Nations. He said if they watched those games, they would have seen, like the Scotland game, we'd have tried disallowed it, or it was a slight knock on the line. There was little things. We were beating Ireland in the first half. Little things. He says we are rectifying. We've probably got one of the most feared backlines in the under-20s circuit, and our forwards are working hard daily to improve the areas where it went wrong for them. So
who said that, Colin?
Ryan Woodman, who is the
Dragons boy. See, he knows what he's talking about. Good player, excellent player.
Well, now you've mentioned that, I might start to go off him a bit, getting those winning ways.
Can I just say, cocking?
Yeah, she just looked it up.
Thank you. Cocking the Dragon.
Well, you made a cock up when you fucking got it all wrong, didn't you?
Oh, fucking hell. Cocking the Dragon. Anyway, with the 20s game as well, though, the amount of promotion, the amount of hype, the amount of stuff, you can miss that game quite comfortably. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not sure what channels it's on. I haven't got that far into delving into it.
I think I saw today that the first game between Wales and New Zealand is on S4C.
Yeah, I'd think so as well.
But I don't think it's confirmed what all the rest of the games are. But I don't think that's unique to Wales. I think that's for all participants. It's not confirmed what the broadcast is. You got as well the Pacific Nations Cup, which is Japan, Tonga, Samoa, Fiji. That's not got any broadcast confirmed for it either. So that's not just like UK broadcasters don't know if it's going to be on TV at all.
We'll talk about the South Sea Islanders teams, I think, next time, guys. So I'll tell you what, their squads are quite frightening.
Yeah, we'll do that. So
put up.
Let's wrap this up for tonight then, okay? With a definitive which is best. Okay, we'll go around the room. Which is best, Gallagher Premiership or URC? So, Carwyn, let's start with you. Who's best?
Oh, it's the URC any day, hands down.
And you don't want to expand on that, right? Okay, fair enough.
No, okay. It's better. It's better than the English, who've always looked down upon us. So good luck to them. We're much better.
Right. Okay. Jay, what's your thoughts?
A couple of years ago, I would have said English Premiership. I would have been quite adamant about that. However, the way things are going over there, with the clubs and everything how it's been run, I don't think it's such a brilliant league, and they've got issues. I do think the lack of jeopardy has weakened their product. So ever since they ring-fenced the English Premiership, I think that's had a negative effect. Because that's the one thing I really like about the top 14 is the promotion relegation. And that's what fans want. They want promotion relegation. And I do think the English Premiership has suffered as a result of ring-fencing. And the URC, look, I'm going to be honest, I've said it many times on this podcast, it's got a lot of flaws. It's an absolute hodgepodge of a league. When you try explaining it to a work colleague, as I did a few months ago, who's a casual rugby fan, knows nothing outside, apart from Team Wales. He watches Six Nations, World Cup, Ultimate Nationals. When I was saying to him, look, we're in a league with Scottish, Irish, South African, and he's like, what? How does that work? I don't get it. Like, you could see his face as I'm trying to explain to him, but even as I was explaining to him, I was thinking to myself, this is a bit silly, isn't it? When you think about it. But I do think the South Africans have really brought the competition on. I think it's a much better, much more competitive league with the South Africans. So I actually think at this moment in time, I am going to say the URC is the better league. It's not the best in Europe. People can say URC equals best league all they want. They're wrong. That is the top 14. But URC, for me, is better than the Gallagher Premiership at this moment in time. Definitely.
And I would agree with that as well. I would say that, everything goes in kind of systems, it cycles. And at the minute, the cycle within the URC is still growing. It's still going upwards. I think the Gallagher Premiership is kind of on the wane a little, and I think it's suffering from it's having bits being taken out of it by France. It's having bits taken out of it by football. It's having bits taken out of it by itself, and it's having bits taken out by the URC. And I think the URC, if it gets its act together over the next couple of years, could be an awesome product. Could be an absolutely world-beating, this is the way you do a league type of product. But it doesn't come easy, and it takes a bit of work. But I would still say at the minute, there are enough quality games inside the URC to beat the Gallagher Premiership in terms of from a rugby product. So for me, it's URC. So last word on this goes to Hugh, because he's the guy that actually knows this shit. So Hugh, what's your thoughts?
So I think similar to Jamie, I think a few years ago it would have been English Premiership. I think for the last few years it's been quite even, and I think the addition of the South Africans in their current guise has taken the URC to this next level. I think the URC is still growing into its potential, whereas I think the Premiership is regressing, quite obviously. Based on, Twickenham was only 3/4 full for their final, and that was mostly neutrals. So I think URC. I'm going to say URC equals best league, just to.
In this instance, yes.
Pander to some people and annoy some others. And if you don't believe me, have a look at the European results and see the URC teams usually beat the English teams quite easily. Especially, it will doubly so next year, because eight of the 10 English teams get into the Champions Cup. 80% of the English teams play in the top level of Europe next year. So I'm telling you now, Bath are going to get absolutely destroyed in Europe if they come up against Leinster or a Toulouse. Oh my God. And I think there was a time where a lot of people in the URC were looking over the English Premiership thinking, I'd like a bit of that. And I think there are still some people in Wales who are still thinking, I'd like an Anglo-Welsh league. I think if another English team goes bump, I think there'll be some people in England looking over the URC and thinking, how do we get a piece of that action?
Maybe they want to join us. We keep talking about joining them, but maybe we go to a stage where, hey, you're talking about Bath though, the Champions Cup, Cardiff for the Champions Cup, mind?
Yeah, that's a good point.
How are they going to get one? Fucking hell.
Fantastic. So, thank you for tonight, gents. It's been absolutely superb. Hugh, how can people find you on Twitter and social media and all of that kind of stuff, my friend?
So you can find me on Twitter at Hugh Griffin Rugby, HUWGRIFFIN Rugby. I post stats, I post my experiences going to games or watching games, and I post pictures of my cat. Somebody likes that.
And that's the deal breaker. If that don't make you follow him, I don't know what will.
I'll be honest. Every time I kind of your stuff pops into my feed, it's always a good kind of 5-10 minutes of going, this is going to be good. You know when you see that bit that says the thread and you go, here we go, we're on one now. This is good. So Hugh, absolutely superb to have you again tonight, mate, and we will definitely have you back again in the future. So
thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So
thank you guys for having me.
that's it for tonight then, gents. We are all done. Another week in Welsh rugby, done and dusted, all finished. 4 teams still existing for now. So we shall, well, we there's a bonus pod to come out for next week, mainly because I am out of the country, which is really nice. And then we'll be back to normal the week after that. And in no time at all, we are into the World Cup, boys. So it's all going to start getting a bit crazy then, isn't it? So there we go. We're all done. Lovely jubbly. We shall do it all again in a couple of weeks' time. All the best, gents.
Cheers, boys.
Lovely.
All the best. Cheers, boys.
Bye now.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Wrap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week with more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.